play the violin. It's a very, very difficult instrument. My family kind of decided for me that I was never going to be good enough to play the violin, so I quit about a year later, and I waited 2 more years before I started formal music training again, and that was on the piano, which I liked very much, and I still play it today. As for the bassoon, I started playing the bassoon when I was 10 years old, and I was absolutely in love with it when I was at that age. I just love the sound of this instrument. And I think a lot of it is that a lot of what gets us to choose the instrument that we choose is falling in love with the tone of the instrument. So you ask, does one size fit all? I have a lot of students who come to me and they want to play this instrument, but their hands are just too small at that age. I think 10 is probably about the youngest a person can play this instrument. I would say ideally probably 11 or 12. Maybe start on another woodwind instrument, clarinet or flute or oboe, and move to this fine instrument maybe a year or 2 after.
Yeah, I've been playing the cello since I was 3 years old. So that's sort of, string instruments, as he says, he says it's a difficult instrument. It's true, but that's not really the sort of the long and the short of it. The truth is that to play a string instrument, if you, so I play like, see how far my finger moved and how much the pitch changed. So you can look there, and where do I put my fingers? Well, yeah, so there's a whole lot of, somebody asked the question, how do you know where to put your fingers? And that's a very good question. As you can see, I'm not looking at it, so there's nothing visually I'm using to tell me where to put the fingers down exactly to make the pitch. This and not that. So, so it's, how I explain it is that you sort of have to grow into playing a string instrument. And one size does not fit all. I played on this tiny little. My first cello, I always like to say, is it was a cereal box with a ruler taped to it. That's true. It was I learned under this Japanese method called the Suzuki method, where you basically learn to play by ear before you learn to read your spoken language. You learn music by ear, so you do a lot of listening, and you learn that way in a very sort of natural way. The same way you learn a language. How do you learn to speak English? I don't know. You just learn. Everyone speaks English around you, and you pick it up, right? And that's the sort of same mentality for learning the string instrument. And like I say, you grow into it. So as you grow older, your muscles have learned to relax, to play with the proper technique. And I think a lot about that even today. I think a lot about like trying to play in a way that makes a good tone rather than, so if I just press too hard, then it sounds awful, right? I can do that all day if you like. No? Nobody likes that, right?
I would like it.
You would like it, good. Okay. Excellent. You got one person out there. Yeah, so, I mean, to answer your question, so I was 3. I've met people who've become professionals starting late, but that's the exception, not the rule.
How many hours at age 3 to 5?
Oh, it's when you're at the young age, it's really all about learning the language, making sure you've got good instruction, hopefully you don't develop bad habits that take you into your adult years, and developing sort of a love, because the most important thing is when you get to your teenage years, and then it's how much you want it. It's really it, because when I was a teenager, I practiced hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I can't tell you how many hours. Because you want it bad. This is a very special thing we do, playing music for a living in an orchestra, symphony orchestra. Chris has come. Where you came from? Alabama? No,
Tennessee.
You were in Tennessee.
I was born in a small mountain town in Tennessee, and I played on a plastic bassoon. I studied with a clarinet player when I started, because I mean there was really no formal education in that location, in that part of the world. So.
And he's here in Calgary because he got a job with the Calgary Philharmonic. He'll travel far and wide to have a full-time job with the symphony orchestra. I grew up in St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm going back there in September. I'm going to meet my teacher who's still there, and that's the only full-time job playing cello there is my old teacher who's there. So it's, you know, you go where you can make a living playing music, and it's sort of a dream that we all have to do that, and we feel very fortunate to do that.
Other questions before we go?
Arranged by Chris Sale.